I think it's clear that populism is now one of the main modes of politics, if you want. And populist political parties are some of the biggest party families around the world, some of them on the left, but mostly on the right. And when you look at the European Parliament, you see that various incarnations of populist right politics are now one of the very big blocks all across Europe. And that's true not only in the European Parliament, but in national parliaments, which are more consequential as well, of course. The question is what happens when populists actually win elections and start to govern. And here I think we've seen a very different paths over the last decades. So we've seen on the one side places like Venezuela, perhaps Turkey, um, in which populist leaders have undermined democratic institutions to such an extent that there either are no free and fair elections at all, as in the case of Venezuela, or where it's come to be genuinely in doubt whether the opposition can still oust the sitting president or prime minister by democratic means, as in the case of Turkey. You have, secondly, a set of countries where these populist movements have significantly undermined democratic institutions, wreaked real havoc, limited free speech, decimated independent institutions, but in which elections clearly still remain meaningful, in which they are mostly free, even if they are no longer fair. And the world's biggest democracy, India, is probably an example of that. And then finally, you have some countries in which populists have, at least for now, failed, in which they were in government, but despite the ways in which they handicapped the opposition was able to throw them out through elections. That was the case in Brazil, it was the case in Poland, and it was, at least in 2020, the case in the United States. But of course, as the American case indicates, that doesn't mean it's the end of the story.